behaves, as we all know. So welcome to this InFocus webinar. We're talking about the examiner's report, and essentially what we're trying to do is identify the key issues that that examiners have highlighted, which hold student performance back, and we're going to talk about how we're going to address them. We're also going to be looking at the study hub and how that's such a fantastic resource to help us in our exam preparation. Now, some of you may have heard of me before, but if you haven't, I'm an FCCA and MBA. I'm an ACCA SBL tutor expert, as you just heard. I've been teaching ACCA for well over 30 years, so ages, and SBL since its first sitting in September 2018. The nice thing about being a multi-subject tutor is, of course, that SBL does integrate topics from lots of earlier subjects, and so the ability to bring that knowledge together is crucial in my teaching, and of course, more importantly, in your performance in the exam. I'm also a leadership coach and trainer, and I do have hands-on business experience running 2 international companies. So let's get into it. This is the plan. Yeah, so what are the key insights from the latest examiner's report? We're going to, as I say, talk about the study hub. We're going to talk about effective exam strategies, in other words, what you need to do both in the exam and in the period leading up to the exam. And we'll try and leave as much time as possible for the question and answer session. I see some brilliant questions already in the Q&A, and I'm looking forward to addressing them with you all. So, of course, I'm using the September-December 2024 examiner's report for the purposes of this webinar. And before we kick off, just a couple of questions, or one actually, a poll, because I'd like to get a feel of how often you use the examiner's reports, and what how many of you actually utilize them in guiding your studies and the way in which you submit your answers in the exam. So could you have a go at that poll, please? A, how often do you access past examiners' reports? A, often. B, sometimes. C, never. D, what are examiners' reports? So I'll just give you a few seconds. Be honest here, no one's judging. It's important that we know, all right, so that it influences where I focus in the next hour or so. Okay, so if you haven't already answered, please go right ahead and do so. Okay, just another couple of seconds. All right. So we've got about 344 responses, so 65% of attendees. And, well, actually, the result isn't bad at all. I mean, sometimes, and most of you, 57%, a big proportion, do sometimes have a look at examiner's report, and that's great to see. And often, even better, gosh, my compliments, 25% often look at the examiner's reports. And that's really powerful. So that's what, about 81%. Never and what are examiner's reports? Those of you who don't utilize them, it's a great resource. Please have a look. I mean, this is information straight from the horse's mouth, if I can put it like that. And, it's worth listening to what the examiners want, because then we can make sure we give it to them. Okay, so please get used to looking at the reports. And I hope you do lots more of that before the next sitting in March. So let's start with the most common pitfalls. Lack of point development and poor application. So here is an extract from the report. In most tasks, there's insufficient application of the relevant information provided in the exam and answers, and an inability to sufficiently develop points in support of arguments made. Now, this is such a common mistake that students make, because they make the mistake of treating SBL like an academic examination. In other words, SBL is all about showing how much you know of each of the models, all right, and simply regurgitating theory. I'm inviting you to think very differently about SBL. Imagine yourself as a consultant working for an organization, preparing for the board of directors, an analysis of a real-world situation, along with a recommendation of what they need to do to overcome the challenges that they are facing. All right? So real world, you're a consultant, you're reporting to the board of directors, and they want answers from you. That's what they're paying you for. They don't care how many models you know. They are not impressed by your ability to explain those models to them, because actually they're paying you for answers, not the communication of theoretical models. Now that means a couple of things. First of all, it means that if you use a model to create in the examination, you use it to structure your answers. Okay? Do not start naming and explaining the models that you're using. So if you're using, let's say, 5 forces, and you want to talk about the threat of new entrants, okay, you might say something like, now in company X's situation, we see that it's highly profitable as a company and as an industry. It's a growing industry. We're expecting competition coming into the market. That competitive threat needs to be protected against, and we need to raise barriers to entry. And I recommend that for company X, the barriers to entry that we raise should be A, B, C, and D. All right? So that's how you use models as a guide, as a structure to your answer. But once you have created some kind of solution, please, please, please apply it to the facts given in the question, right? So continuing with my example, my illustration, you say, look, company X is a market leader in a growing market. It wants to protect its market share. It's currently holding 35%, and its strategy is to increase to 60. Challenge that goal is going to make that goal difficult to achieve, and therefore we need to raise barriers to entry which stop that from happening. Okay, now underneath you'll see these 3 words: state, explain, apply. This is what I suggest, recommend to my students. State what the problem is, explain why it's a problem, and then apply your solution to that problem in your answer. Okay, that's all that the board of directors wants to know. So going back to the examiner's comment, insufficient application of the information provided, and an inability to sufficiently develop points in support of the arguments made. So if you then say, the barrier to entry that I'm going to recommend for company X is lots of, to lobby government to raise import taxes, for example, right? Then you say, by raising those taxes, new entrants become less competitive and therefore less of a threat to company X. Something along those lines, okay? So real world answers, really important. Let's move on. What else did the examiners say? Well, irrelevant content. Unfortunately, again, this is a common complaint that they have. Detailed and descriptive diagrams of the BCG matrix in task 1, which would not directly apply to the answer. Well, look, first of all, as I've already said, please, please do not start naming and explaining models in the answer. No one cares. Your audience doesn't care about the model. They care about the solutions you are going to recommend to them. All right, that's what they're paying you for as a consultant. Okay, and then what the examiners are saying is that not only do they describe the model, but then they just left it at that. That was the answer. That was the end of the answer, and that is a typical academic answer. That is simply showing off what you remember of the BCG matrix. In SBL, it is not going to earn any marks. Also, many students, what they do is they don't know how to approach an answer. And so they say, look, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fill the page up. I'm going to draw a really nice BCG or whatever, explain it in detail. I'm sure I'll get 1 or 2 marks for it. Actually, you won't, because you're not answering the question, and for the reasons that I've already mentioned, all right? But they say, well, my answer is going to look substantial. And the examiner often says, look, I'd rather have, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but he says, I'd rather have a couple of paragraphs of quality points than, 5 pages of something that adds no value to the answer at all. Okay, so quality, not quantity. Don't panic. It doesn't have to be terribly long, but please make sure that whatever you do write, okay, is directed at a solution for the challenge faced in the exam. Again, the next one is very common, not answering the task. Candidates merely describe, and here's an example, merely describe the 6 capitals rather than apply the exhibit information to the relevant areas of the 6 capital. So the question is saying, look, with the 6 capitals, which bits of this organization, all right, or from this exhibit, apply or may be analyzed under the heading of the 6 capitals. It's not asking you to explain the 6 capitals. It's asking you to apply exhibit information to the relevant areas. Underneath, you'll see RTQ and ATQ. RTQ means read the question, and you can guess what ATQ means. It means answer the question. All right, in the 15 minutes preparation time or planning time that you have at the beginning of the examination, one of the key things I would recommend that you do is highlight the key words in the requirements to make sure that that is what you address and nothing else. If the exam question does not ask you to describe the 6 capitals, then you get 0 marks for describing the 6 capitals. Okay, so ATQ, not answer the question you would like to have been said. Answer the question that was actually said. It's really important that we do this. I know that for some of you, this is the first time you're going to be sitting professional exams. You've been able to take advantage of exemptions, and this requires a different approach. And that's why, as I'll mention later, that's why question practice is so important. All right, next, unprofessional responses, failing to respond to requirements in a professional manner. Now, please, please, please remember, this is a professional qualification, all right? It's not an academic qualification. A professional person is expected to maintain certain standards in their behavior, in the advice that they give, and so on, in the real world. In the same way, the examiner expects that professionalism to be reflected in the answers that you provide in the examinations. Now, that's why we have professional skills marks. 20% of the final mark is awarded for professional skills. Now, if you don't demonstrate those professional skills, then you risk losing 20%, which means you're going to have to earn 50% out of 80, right? 50 out of 80, not easy to do. So you need to be experts on professionalism, on professional skills, and of course on ethics. And for that, you need to attempt and complete the ethics and professional skills module. All right, and again, that's accessible in my ACCA, but I strongly recommend, if you haven't done it already, that you please do it as soon as possible. In fact, statistics, don't hold me to this, but the number is amazing. The ACCA did some work on the difference it makes to pass rates, those who have and those who haven't done EPSM. And the difference is around 20%. I may be wrong, but it's around that order of magnitude. Now, that is a big number, all right? So do the EPSM, please. Demonstrating poor time allocation is another very common one. 1.8 minutes per mark. You've got 3 hours, you've got 100 marks to earn. You've got 1.8 minutes in which to earn those marks, okay? So please, what I strongly recommend is that what you do is when you start a question, you put the finishing time of that of your answer on the question paper, right? So if it's a 10-mark question, 1.8 minutes per mark, that's 18 minutes. You start at 9 o'clock, put down 9:18, and at 9:18 exactly, please move to the next question. All right. Against, analysis of past results show that the students who do best are those who attempt the whole paper. Okay, those who generally, do very well in question one, adequately in question two, and very badly in question three tend to fail. Okay, so it's better to have an average answer, average quality answer, if you like, across all three questions, than to be brilliant in one and less brilliant in the others. Okay, so let's summarize this. And again, these come from the examiner's report. Application of technical knowledge, we've spoken about that. Use of models and frameworks, we've said we use them to structure our answers, right, to give our answers a professional look, but we do not waste time, all right, writing and describing models and frameworks. Understanding the six capitals is an area that the examiners seem to like a lot, so make sure that you're expert in how they work, right? It's not about the capitals, but it's about identifying which of the capitals actually add value to the organization and why, all right? And then we can focus on enhancing the capitals to improve or raise the value added by each one. Exhibit analysis. Again, this is something that you will need to have a look at in the 15 minutes preparation time. Fortunately, the exhibits are short, right? And so when and the second thing is that you'll be able to link each exhibit to a particular question. So question number one or task number one, you'll very easily be able to see that links to exhibit number one. So you focus only on exhibit number one, and you can do a quick analysis both in the 15 minutes preparation time or planning time, if you like, and also while you're answering task number one. Okay, so but use the information in the exhibit. That's what it's there for. Make strategic recommendations. Okay, very important. Okay, after all, the clue is in the name, strategic business leader. So, don't say, well, we need to look at our budgets for, for factory B. Okay, the strategic recommendation is we need investment in new product development, and we are going to, focus our expertise on that. Okay, so for that, to structure our answer, we might use balanced scorecard, we might use value chain, all right? But those are strategic recommendations, not operational, not tactical. And professional skills, we've talked about those as well. Okay. Now we go to the study hub. And as I said, the study hub is, as the name suggests, it's crucial to our exam preparation. All right, as you'll see in just a second, there's an enormous amount of resource there, and we need to start thinking about our preparation as accessing information from a number of sources. So you've got the study hub, we've spoken about the examiner's report, there are articles available to us in my ACCA. They're all there for your use to enhance the quality of your understanding. Then, of course, you've got the TestReach platform where you have exam papers which you can attempt under exam conditions. Okay, so all the information that you've gathered, everything that you've learned, you can start to apply on the platform so that by the time you get to the real exam, all right, there aren't any surprises. You are ready. You know how to approach computer-based exams. All right, I use the study hub. So same question, A often, B from time to time, C very rarely or never, and D, what is the study hub? Couple of seconds. Could you answer there, please? A, B, C, or D? All right, so let's have a look. Got almost said, oh, we've got 70% of you answering. And again, that's great to see. All right, so 38 and 28, and 58, 64%, is that right? 66%. So 2/3 of you do use it from time to time and often. Very rarely and never, I would strongly recommend that you take advantage of it. Okay, as I say, there is so much opportunity there to gain value, and it's very easy to access, to understand. It's well laid out. There are quiz questions, and we'll have a look at some of the longer questions that are available there as well. What's a study hub? Please have a go, right? Please find out about the study hub, right? It's really valuable as a resource. I'd recommend it. Okay, so access the study hub, tuition and study options. So these are the instructions for how to access them. Okay, either on your My ACCA account, or you can log in direct using ACCA credentials. Okay, so that's how you access it. I understand that most of you know at least how to use it. You may not use it for terribly often, but you do know how to get there. Now, when you get to the main page, this is what it looks like for SBL. All right, so on the left-hand side, you've got the chapters, you've got flashcards, which are things that you can carry around with you if you like. I have a quick look at, all right, to remind yourselves of key issues. We've got quizzes, short quizzes or multiple choice quizzes, which are self-marking, so you get immediate feedback. And it's a great way of keeping a topic interesting, right, to challenge yourself, just by answering short questions. And you can have a go, on the bus on your way to work, for example, or, just before you go to bed, but just something to keep your knowledge warm, if you like. Then we've got the longer practice questions. All right, and we'll have a look at those in just a second. They are based on past exam papers. Okay, moving on. Once we've opened a sample topic, all right, so we are 3.1.1, what is public interest? We look at the facilities, the functionality available on the study hub. You see here the calculator, and I've just opened that up to show you what it looks like. Okay, you see you can highlight words, right? So it's something you can read and highlight. So it's almost like if you like, quote unquote, textbook or study notes. That's what they're there for. And then once you highlight these, then they are permanent. They don't vanish when you close the page or move to the next one. And then, you're asked to rate your confidence on this particular topic. And if your confidence is low, then you'll be reminded that, you weren't very comfortable about this particular topic. You want to go back and have a look and have another go at it. Okay, so it's a really useful resource for you to use. Here's an example of a quiz question. Okay, so what happens, of course, is you get a quiz, you see it's multiple choice, okay, and you answer. The answer is either A, B, C, or D. There are only 5 questions in this quiz. And once you've answered each question, all right, you confirm it and you go to the next one. 5 questions. I mean, that's going to take you a couple of minutes, but it's worth it. And it kind of reminds you. It also, please remember, it does remind you of stuff that you don't know, but you think you do, if you understand what I'm saying, right? So you think you understand a particular topic, and then you're asked a question, and you think, oh, hang on, never thought of that, right? So do have a go at these quizzes. They really are worth it. They're fun, they're quick, and they're valuable, all right? What else? Well, here's an example of a longer question. Okay, so we see that this is a longer written question. It has most of the functionality that you had with the quizzes over here, and the notes, I beg your pardon. You have a timer, shows you, and it's a very powerful tool for timing yourselves. All right, so at the bottom, you know how many marks there are awarded for this, and so you allocate 1.8 minutes per mark, and then you have a go at it, right? So you plan your answer, you have space at the bottom, okay, that opens up, and you start to plan your answer, you write your answer out, then you review it, and then you say you've done practicing, and you have a look at the answer, the suggested solution to that question, and compare your answer to that. Okay, now looking at solutions or talking about solutions, I thought it'd be useful to compare a solution or to a particular question. Case number 4 on the Study Hub, TT for you, it's a past exam question, and the Study Hub task and the Study Hub solution to that task, and then to compare it with a solution provided by a student to the same question, and use that to highlight the difference between the two, or the differences between the two. Okay, so here's the task. It's part B, 1B. Prepare a section of your report which considers the advantages and concerns arising from each of the 2 strategic options proposed by the directors. Okay, so 2 options you're being told about. Okay, so immediately you know that you've got 2 main subheadings, option 1, option 2, and under each subheading you have advantages and concerns. So advantages and concerns for option 1 and the same for option 2. You know that for each strategy you have 14 marks available. All right, and so they're looking, if you think about a mark allocation, when the markers mark, they look at an allocation of two marks per point made. So you're looking to make 2 proper points. And by proper points, I mean state, explain, apply. Okay, and that means 3.6 minutes, 1.8 minutes times 2 marks, so 3.5 minutes. So in 3.5 minutes, the point that you make is going to be state, explain, apply, okay, and it's going to come in under one of these 4 headings. Option 1, advantages and concerns. Option 2, advantages and concerns. Now, remember the professional skills. In this particular question, the professional skill being judged as evaluation. Evaluation is the professional skill which basically is used when you're asked to look at a future plan or a future action. Okay, so evaluate that plan, evaluate that option, and you're asked to use professional judgment. Now, so what this is saying is, look, you're the professional here. You're the one advising the board. All right. So objectively appraise the options. So you say, look, in option 1, this is what's good about it because X, Y, Z. Option 2, this is what's good about it because A, B, C. All right. Now, it's not a question of whether your judgment is correct or incorrect. It's a question of whether your judgment is solidly founded. Okay. Why do you think A, B, C are good? Why do you think X, Y, Z are good? Well, it might be because A, B, C, and X, Y, Z support the organization's strategic objectives, or the resource availability, or satisfies more stakeholders. All right. So that's what they mean about professional, or by professional judgment. All right. Move on. So here is the answer that they gave. So advantages of strategy. Developing services in relation to Internet of Things has been highlighted in recent articles, potential means of rapid growth through market development. All right, so here, using the phrase market development, remember the market development means existing product in a new market. Okay, so we're showing off our knowledge, we understand what market development means, and we're linking it to the desire of investors. So we're linking it to our stakeholder management. All right, and so we're saying that our investors, who are key stakeholders, and our objective, or one of our objectives, is to maximize their level of satisfaction, right? Then by following this particular strategy, all right, i.e. market development, will make them happy. Okay, so this is a state, explain, and apply to the question. situation. Then you go on and say, look, that might be expensive, right? But that you do get something back. You get valuable new expertise. And we know that in this industry, new expertise is very important because, look, PT4U is looking generally to develop it, all right, by sharing knowledge and experience. It's looking for ways to share that expertise within its employment pool. And so this is expensive, but we get that advantage with it as well, which is something we're planning on doing in any case, all right? So here is what we mean when we talk about applying professional judgment in the context of the organization, as explained to us in the exhibit and in the pre-seen case study. If that's not clear, please make a note of the question and we'll look at it after we've finished. Now compare those to student answers, all right, for the same question, and you see in red the markers comments. So clients could use cloud integration services by connecting their data and applications. Yeah, well, maybe they could, but actually, so what? You know, the question tells you they can, but that's not answering the question. They know they can, all right? But how is this forwarding or progressing their strategic plan? Who is it making happy? How would it be used? Why does it form an advantage for the organization? All right, none of those questions are being answered. And the directors will say to you, you're fired. All right, you're telling us something we already know. Then the student goes on to say, TT4U could develop a market. With their new product, this service could transform the operations, unlock value in the areas which would resonate with the Mirabed client approach that the CEO wants to launch. Unlock value in new areas. I mean, what does that mean? You know, anyone could say that. But what the examiner wants to see is, in the context of TT4U, what value will it unlock and in which areas? And by the way, why is what is being unlocked here, why is it valuable? What value does it bring? What return does it generate? All right? This transformation of operations. Okay, so you really need to demonstrate your understanding of the situation, not simply make vague statements about unlock value, all right, and transform without explaining what they mean. Some more examples. Service director mentioned that the government sector is less demanding on innovation. On the contrary, top-class service is expected. Okay, perhaps, right? But so what? It's not answering the question. All right? The question is, what are the advantages and the challenges, all right, of an option? Simply saying that top-class service is expected is not telling me whether it's either an advantage or a challenge, and if it is an advantage, what we should do, and if it's a challenge, what we should do about it. Okay? Another example, if TT4U wins the contract, it'll bring long-term revenues and constant income, which could be used on innovations, investing in business opportunities. Yeah, on what business opportunities? Yeah, and why are we looking for sources of finance for new business opportunities? I'm sorry, but it's not clear what you're saying. Okay, now if you were to continue that and say business opportunities in developing, I don't know, artificial intelligence, an area that TT4U wants to invest in heavily, all right, then you're making sense. Then you're connecting it to the goals of the organization. But simply saying investing in business opportunities is insufficient. Now, I mentioned earlier articles and webinars that are available. And again, this is available to you on my ACCA. Okay, so lots of articles. There are some under each topic. Underneath, you see the topics. Okay, click on the topic heading, and you have webinars and so on, topic explainers, and you might even find one or two done by me. So please have a look at those, especially if you're in an area that you're not 100% clear on. All right, there is help available there. Examining team guidance. Well, we've already spoken about this, but use time to understand what the examining team is looking for, right? And give them what they're looking for. You give them what they want, you get the marks, you move on. End of story, all right? But you've got to listen to the examiners. So please do read this. There are, as you see here, there is guidance on how to analyze the pre-scene, and there are lots of webinars on that as well in the Study Hub and our articles and other resources section. So what do you do between now and the examination? Well, here I'm putting together all of the stuff that I've been touching on. Links are provided in the last slide, in the final slide, which I'm sure you have access to, so you can access them, refresh your technical knowledge, read your articles, attempt the quizzes on the Study Hub. By the way, when I say refresh technical knowledge, I do not mean sit there and memorize the materials, okay? Just refresh the topic. Okay, you shouldn't be spending more than 10 or 15% of your time between now and the exam on reading technical knowledge. Okay, so read some articles, attempt some quizzes if you have time, but all of that has to be done after you've done some practice of past exam papers. Number two, understand the case context. Right, so have a look at the pre-scene as soon as it comes out. All right. Be ready to analyze the pre-scene, and to be perfectly honest, if you can get a group of, if you're studying on your own, get a group of people, find people online if you can, all right, with whom you analyze the pre-scene. And again, there are lots of resources available on ACCA on the Study Hub, which tell you how to go about that. Analyzing the pre-scene is really important. Just remind you that you can't take the pre-scene into the exam with you. Obviously, you can't have it with you, but it is available in the exam if you should need to use it. Hopefully, you won't, because it takes a lot of time looking for what you want to find. So be experts on the pre-scene. Summarize the information there, all right? So you don't need to look at it again. Number three, practice with the mock and past exams on the ACCA practice platform under time conditions. This is the number one activity you should be doing between now and the exams. I don't care what mark you get, all right? I don't care what mark you get. The mark will get better, but you need to become expert at your time discipline, at your state, explain, apply, and so on. And there's no better way of doing it than on the ACCA's practice platform. Complete your ethics professional skills module. I've already mentioned that. And really, it's so vital. Again, if you're studying alone, get a study buddy, get a group, get access to an expert tutor, ask for feedback, right? Exchange your answers on the practice platform. Get objective feedback on how you're doing. Use, and when you're marking your buddy's exam answers, use the examiner's marking scheme to mark the answers. Then get together and say, look, you did that well, or you didn't do this particularly well, or I did this badly, or whatever, and learn from the process. But it's really important, if you possibly can, it's really important to to have some independent, objective feedback. Focus on planning your answers in a balanced way. So if the questioner is asking you for, I don't know, a recommendation, for example, or analysis, then give the examiner what he's asking for. Time discipline we've spoken about. Apply knowledge to the case. We've spoken about that. State, explain, apply. Focus on professional skills, EPSM. Avoid irrelevant content, quality not quantity. And review and reflect. Feedback is critical. Okay, really important. Key takeaways. SBL exam prep is an active process. Please, I've seen so many students who sit there and try and learn the textbook. Please don't do that. All right? You are not going to be asked to regurgitate your knowledge from the textbook. Okay? You're going to be asked to apply the principles that you've learned in SBL and from your earlier studies to a real world situation. So memorizing a textbook is not a good use of your time. Don't do it. So SBL exam prep is an active process requiring constant practice to pass exams. Make the time to attempt at least 2 past exams a week between now and the exam. And I really would not suggest that you say, well, I don't have time. You've got 3 weeks. Make the time. Either you want to pass SBL or you don't. And honestly, if you don't practice exams under exam timing, right, and 2 a week at this stage is not too much to ask for. In other words, 6 hours, 6.5 hours a week, all right? If you don't do that, your chances of passing are really diminished. Don't do that. You don't want to sit this exam again. Get it right first time. Make the compromises and sacrifices that you need to. Get through it. 2 exams a week. Set aside the time. Tell everyone you're not available and do it, please. Use all the ACCA's resources in an integrated way. I've already talked about that. Yes, the various resources you have. Get a study buddy or group. And between now and your exam, 90% of your time should be spent on practicing question exams, not reading your notes. So hopefully that is clear. And we got to the live Q&A. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited now because I'm dying to hear from you, and I'm sure you want me to shut up now. So I'm all yours. Talk to me. My goodness, everyone's gone quiet.
Hi, Ashim. If you go to the Q&A inbox, you'll be able to see we've got lots of questions there from
yes, I do see. Oh my goodness, there are a lot of questions, aren't there?
I'll leave you to it.
Okay, fine. All right, so I'm just going to randomly pick some. For a question worth 20 marks plus 4 professional marks, that's 24 in total. How many points should we include in our answer, and what is the word limit for each point? So, as I've said, you work on the basis of 2 marks per point. So if it's 20 marks, that's 10 points that you make, okay? And each point should take 3.5 minutes, 3.6 minutes to write. Your professional skills are the way in which you present your points, all right? They need to demonstrate evaluation or analysis and so on, okay? I had 48% in December, templates applied, got 80%. Oops, whoa, so quickly. Right. Well, I managed to catch one. Can I question spot? Absolutely not. Because see, the thing with SBL papers is that the answers are not about, or the questions are not about one single topic. You're never going to get one question on change management. You're never going to get one question on, I don't know, competitive environment, because your answer is going to be a combination of, look, we're facing a competitive threat. This is the threat we're facing. This is what we need to do about it. It's going to need these resources. We're going to have to do some budgeting or some planning. Okay, we're doing it this way because it fits in with our strategy. It fits in with our objective. All right, it satisfies our key stakeholders. So all of a sudden, you're talking about 4 or 5 different topics in one answer. So, you're never going to get a question on a single topic. All right, so all you can guarantee is that pretty much the whole exam, the whole syllabus will be examined because your answers will be so broad. What is the best way to approach planning with the pre-seen information? Right, so again, I will refer you to webinars. There are lots of webinars that the ACCA has available to you on how to deal with the pre-seen. My recommendation is that you do a little SWOT, all right? So for the organization, all right, read through it, and whatever characteristics you're given or what information you're given, decide whether it's a strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat for that organization, and then say why, all right? So a strength is it's, technical know-how, for example. So you'd put that in technical know-how under the strength heading, and then you'd explain why that's a strength. And actually that then reduces this enormous pre-seen case study into 1 or 2 pages, which are much easier for you to review as you do your revision. Okay, what else? Any short notes to go through before attempting the mock? Not really, except you've got of course you've got your flashcards, so you can use those. But remember, the mocks again. It's not. I mean, short notes would really be notes on the whole syllabus, right? Because the exam's going to be on the whole syllabus, so your answers are going to be on multiple topics. So it's very difficult to say, well, okay, here's some notes for what to expect in question 2, because question 2 is always on strategic planning. No, it doesn't work like that. All right, I scored 49 marks in December 24. What is lacking? Professional skills. Yeah, this is actually about when you're between 45 and 49, it's usually about exam technique. So it's possibly, Sheena, it's possibly your timing, all right, lack of time discipline. It may be your state, explain, apply, all right, your technique is not firmed up enough, all right. Remember what I said, for each point you need to earn 2 marks, or you aim to earn 2 marks. So it's stuff like that. So your knowledge is probably okay, all right? It's just the way you demonstrate it. All right, so Juan is saying, I only study on BPP. Next Tuesday I'll receive pre-scene. May I know, once I receive the pre-scene, what is the effective steps I should take? I've spoken about that. My question is, if the question is 14 marks, how many points should I need to write? Okay, so seven points is what you would write. Okay, for 14 marks. 2 points for each mark. Okay, what else? Will there be any topics which are highly tested? Unfortunately, Jenny, yeah, most of them. I know it sounds really weird, right? But it's true, because it's a very integrated syllabus. So either question picking or topic picking is a bad idea, right? What is the purpose of the pre-scene material? Will it be the exact scenario tested in the exam? No, the scenario will not be tested in the exam. The purpose of the pre-scene is as follows. It gives you a context for the organization. It tells you about the environment and the stakeholders in the organization. It's not something that you're expected to memorize and regurgitate in the examination. I mean, in any case, you'll have access to it. The aim of the pre-scene is to tell you that when you recommend a solution to the challenge that you're faced with in the examination, then that solution must be in the context that this organization faces. So if in the pre-scene they tell you that the turnover of this organization is $2 million a year, then in your in your answer in the exam, you don't recommend a marketing strategy which is going to cost $20 million a year, right? Because it won't happen, obviously. So the aim of the pre-scene is to give you context. The aim of the pre-scene is for you to make sure that what you recommend in the real exam fits in with that context, all right? And that you use some of the information given in the pre-scene to perhaps support your answer. Okay. Is there going to be a question about the technical article? No. It's going to be a question based on a real world scenario. Should I focus on the scenario instead of explaining? Absolutely do not explain theories, please. All right? It's all about the scenario and providing a solution. You might use a theory, you might use a framework, you might use a model to structure your answer, to identify which points you want to make, all right? But for goodness sake, don't explain it. Don't explain the theory, don't explain the model. As long as the answers are structured, will we still get, even if we don't use models? Another question about models, I think I've answered that. Reading the latest technical article is important only, or we need to look into older ones as well? I would look at first of all, you've got a limited amount of time, okay? So you would start to look at articles on topics that you feel least confident about. Get a different perspective, right, from an expert on that topic. And don't spend too long reading them. Once you understand the topic, once you understand different perspectives to addressing that, then, move on, okay? So don't just spend all your time reading technical articles. Are grammatical errors or spelling errors penalized? The answer is no. as long as your meaning is clear. Okay, make sure your meaning is clear, but you won't be penalized for grammatical or spelling errors. How many sets of questions should I prepare before the final exam? Well, I've answered that. 2 exam papers under exam conditions each week between now and the exam is the minimum. Can I give an example of how to show professional acumen in the examination, please? Professional acumen is really about professionalism, and again, unfortunately, it's difficult for it is, in this context, in this scenario, it's difficult for me to actually teach that. However, there again, I refer you to my ACCA and Study Hub, where they talk about professional acumen. They talk about, or we and my colleagues talk about what professionalism means. So they give you definitions of professionalism. Search for that word in my ACCA. Professionalism includes, it has a specific meaning. For example, all right, you in your answer, you use the right kind of language. For example, it means that in your answer, you make the most important points first. Okay, because remember I said the ACCA wants to see evidence that you are a professional person. Because when you have those letters after your name, the rest of the world is going to look at you as a professional person. You need to show them that you are. What would be the best way to manage time to answer the plan, review the exhibits, and answer the question? So you've got 15 minutes at the beginning. All right, so what you do is you highlight the requirements in the tasks very, very quickly. All right, then you go down to, you start to read the exhibits. All right, the rest of the time that you have available, so hopefully 5 minutes highlighting the requirements, and then 10 minutes reading the exhibits. Highlight the key information in the exhibits as you read it. When your 15 minutes is up, start answering the first question. Whether you've finished analyzing the exhibits or not, start answering the first question, all right, and off you go. That's how you manage your time. In terms of answering or planning, you're very fortunate. You'll be doing it on a platform, so you can adjust. But things like format, and again, so many videos are available on how to lay out, structure your answers. Okay, if you're being asked for a report, if you're being asked for a briefing paper, techniques for saving time. There's all of this information. I really recommend you to find it on my ACCA and Study Hub. Best way to is there another? So Lee, another session being run on the March BC. I remember there was one for December. I'm not sure the answer to that is. You'll need to speak to our colleagues at the ACCA. I'm sure they'll be able to tell you that. Should our answers be reflected in the suggested solutions in case of our answers are not in so? What does it mean that my answer is wrong? No, it does not mean that. In the real world, there is no such thing as a right or wrong answer. What the examiner is looking for is a well-considered response, a well-considered answer that addresses the challenge faced, communicates a realistic, practical solution, and is grounded in SBL knowledge, all right, the principles of SBL. Okay, so if you can show, for example, that you're, in your answer, you're demonstrating great stakeholder management, or you're applying the use of the 6 capitals, all right, that is what I mean by grounded knowledge. Okay, so you might take a different approach to the examiner, but that doesn't mean you're wrong. You will be given credit for everything that meets the criteria that I have just described, even if it's different to what the examiner has written in his or her suggested solution.
Average sorry to jump in. Yeah. I think we've got time for one more question, and then I'll need to wrap up the session.
All right. Okay. So last one. Let me pick one that I haven't answered. Are the questions in order to the exhibits? Yeah, pretty much. You can link them in quite easily. Okay. All right. I think most of these I've answered. So over to you.